So what does the camping committee do? And what's interesting, Jeff made a comment about people think of us as money, because that's kind of one of those things that we do. We basically, the Canadian Baptists have a fund. We take that fund and we divide it up to the 8 camps. And we'll talk a little bit more about how that is done. But believe it or not, that likely takes 10% of our time. And so when somebody says, well, what's the camping committee about? Money? Well, it really isn't. We're really the kind of the Canadian Baptist Board. How do they know what happens at each camp? Well, they kind of know that through a report from us. How do we know what happens at each camp? Well, you can see we have representatives from all the areas and the camps. And at each of our meetings, we phone each of the camp directors to see what's happening. And so number 2 is where most of our time is spent. Sets and ensures high standards are achieved in all areas of camping. If I go back 5 years, the standards were very, very wide. Some were part of the local camping association, some were not. But even beyond that, camps worked in isolation. And so you know how the Baptist Union, as churches, they would get together. Well, how did the camp people get together to share things that worked, things that didn't work? And so this meeting here this weekend is kind of an initiative of the camping committee to say, how do we bring people together to share ideas as to what worked and what didn't work? For instance, a small camp. How does a small camp become a large camp? One of the challenges back in around 2003, and I'm not sure, was it Richard? Jared, sorry Jared. Jared was necessarily at Katepwa at that time, but they were transitioning from a small camp to a large camp. And the camping committee was quite involved in that at the time. No different, I think, Mike and Kelly can kind of say that the camping committee has been involved in Mill Creek as they're transitioning the last couple of years from what was a small camp to a large camp and continuing to grow. And as Jeff referenced, maybe we weren't involved soon enough in Pelican Lake. That kind of helped that transition. So that's where a lot of our time is spent. Just sharing everything from structure to insurance to what works and what doesn't work. And I guess we probably see the accessing finances as, like I said, taking up the least amount of our time, but we also recognize to each of the camp reps here that that's a very important part of how things keep going.